Blog Talk Radio.
Good evening, everyone. This is me, Jonathan Alexander, and here to host our show, Life, Laughter, Happiness. Today, I have my co-host, Barbara. Are you there, Barbara?
Yes, I am here. Hi, everybody.
Now, Barbara, why don't you introduce, being this is somebody that you've known for many, many years, why don't you introduce her?
Okay, I am so excited. We're continuing with our Playboy Playmate series on Life, Laughter, Happiness, and I'm so excited to introduce Renee Tenison, Miss November 1989 and Playmate of the Year 1990, one of the very first Playmates I ever met. When I was staying at the Playboy Mansion, she was sent up to pick me up, and the rest is history. Welcome to the show, Renee.
Thank you so much for having me on, and you are definitely one of the first Playmates that we had. And we had a good time that night. We really did. We just, I heard
really
you were like,
did.
you didn't know anybody, and they sent me out, and I had a car, and you were kind of like, let's get into some fun. Right? And then I happened. Yes? Yeah?
It was more than I ever imagined. Okay. She had this boyfriend. You were dating this guy at the time who just happened to be a Chippendale dancer.
Exactly.
And so we went and watched him perform. Can you believe that, Johnny?
And they were so excited. They were so excited because I was bringing in a Playmate, and everybody was so excited because they knew she was going to be there. And then so we got our little front row seats, and it was fun.
And here I'm thinking, okay, this is my new life. My friends have Chippendale dancers for their boyfriends, and this is like a new fun life.
And I think it might have been across from Roxbury, like when the Roxbury was going
I
off.
have a question. Now,
right near their Sunset Strip.
Okay, Renee, you were dating a Chippendale dancer?
I was, yeah.
Let me ask you this. Did you ever do a photo shoot with your boyfriend?
No, I didn't. I remember. Let me go back. Let me back this up here. I didn't know he was Chippendale. Let's put that out there. I just saw this. I was at Bar One. I saw this really good-looking guy, and I was like, oh my god, that guy's like really cute. And so then, like, for whatever, we started talking. He got my number, and then so we started dating. But then I didn't know he was Chippendale. You know what I mean? And then one night, like he jumps at the end of the bed, and he was going to do like this little strip tease, and I was kind of like, huh, what? I was like, no. But then
did you say, well, where did you learn how to do that?
Yeah, no, I was kind of like, I wasn't feeling it. I was just kind of like, nah. I was kind of like, but I think he thought that was going to be like his ace in the hole. Like he was going to jump and do the whole strip tease, and then I was going to be like, oh my God, it's so great. But I was more kind of like, now what? I was like, you're a chip.
Like what? That's not really impressing me. Maybe I don't want to really know more about
kind
you.
Of the exact opposite. So then I was kind of like, well, I'll go to the show. And then I took my sister, or no, she wasn't in town yet, but then I think I probably took you. And then I went and saw the show, and it was pretty good. So it's kind of like, all right, I can do this. But it definitely wasn't like a slam dunk. The Chippendale thing wasn't.
It wasn't like a total love connection.
Yeah, exactly.
But it served its purpose.
It was fun.
For
it
our
was
first
fun.
meeting.
Like, yeah. It was, and then in the end, I was just kind of like, the Chippendales are fun, and they're great, and you've all these cute guys that are, really good looking, and then my sister, she came down, and we were both like, this is really fun. We're both
yeah, but you know what, modeling, we're going to get to the very beginning with you and where you're from and all that, but I was always the type that didn't really like the male models because, we modeled with them a lot, and they were nice people, nothing wrong with them, but I was never attracted to the male model type because they are into themselves, aren't they? I don't want them looking into the mirror more than I am. Yeah,
you're so right. I never dated any of the models either because it just, the Chippendale was probably the that kind of thing. But then after that, I was kind of like, because you work with guys all the time, but it just wasn't my thing, so I was with you on that for sure.
Yeah. Okay. So, yeah, because I never knew what happened after that. And it's not like I followed all your boyfriends very much. So that's interesting because, you know what?
Yeah.
I thought, wow, you know, some people do really get into it, though, Renee. They really get into the male model. I have to have a certain look. But
they do.
Hey, it's nice if they're that gorgeous. It's nice if they have that great of a body. It's wonderful. But it's a lot more about the guy that I need than just the looks. And so
exactly.
You too.
Yeah. And also, too, smart guys, that can be intoxicating, too. If somebody's really smart and really intelligent, you know, that's an attractive quality. So it's not always. And you want them definitely attractive, but you definitely don't, you know, I also want them, like, kind of smart and they have something to say because I find that attractive as well.
Oh, me too. Definitely. So let's start at the very beginning. You are from a pretty small town, aren't you, in Idaho? Caldwell? How many people?
Yeah, I was born in Caldwell, and then my sister and I basically grew up in Melba, which is like a really small farming community. It's like really, really small. It's like out in the middle of nowhere.
Wow.
So we went to school there, and we basically went to junior high, but my sister and I were like always really into fashion. We were always like telling everybody like, oh my God, we're going to become models. We're going to go to LA. We're going to, you know, so we were always like telling everybody this, like when we were like in like fourth grade, fifth grade. In our senior yearbook, it says that these two are going to become successful models and move to LA. That's what we had basically put out to the universe. Yes. So I don't know how we were going to do it. We just were telling everybody that's what we were going to do. Pretty much. Well,
let's tell the listeners, because a lot of people don't know, you have an identical twin sister named Rosie.
I do. I have an identical twin, and she and I were the ones, you know, we grew up in Idaho, the really small place. Eventually, we moved from there to like a bigger town, which was in Nampa. That was like, you know, where we ended up going to high school, and that's where my sister and I, like, we were really into fashion. So, like, when we were sitting out on the farm, we were both like, you know what, when we go to this big town, you know, everybody's going to be, like, dressed really good, and they're going to be, like, really famous, and so we need to fit in. So my sister and I were, like, my mom had bought us a sewing machine, so, like, all summer long we were sewing outfits, we were designing, we were just, you know, trying to fit in, you know, to the school. So we, you know, because we were from this farming community and stuff like that. So, we were watching like MTV, and we were watching like Prince and Madonna and David Lee Roth. So we were designing our outfits based off these music videos. You know, they were pretty scandalous. So when the first day of school, my sister and I had made like this kind of, you know, I don't know if you remember, like a virgin, and Madonna was in the Levi's and lace outfit, you know. So we had kind
with the pearls and the chunky jewelry and the leather jacket.
Exactly. So my sister and I, like, we had made that for our first day of school. Well, needless to say, the principal, you know, like, we came walking in there, they were just like, oh my God, like, who are these two? Where did they come from? Because like our outfit was like similar to the Madonna video, you know. But it was for high school, like ninth grade. So then, like, we got sent to the principal's office, and they were like, "Girls, you can't wear this to school." And we're like, "What?
No way!"
Yeah. So then my mom.
How wonderful, though.
Yeah, we got
Renee,
sent
how
home.
wonderful it is that you had each other, because when you have a sister that you're that close with, and you have to do big things like move to a new school, you always have each other. You have each other's backs. And I've known you all of these years, and I've known Rosie really well as well from modeling. And you guys are so close, and I've never known you to have ever, like, even a disagreement. It's like you are just so similar, not just with your looks, but mentally, and you're doing things together in life, which I find that with a lot of twins and triplets too, that they're even marrying in the same year. They're doing pretty much these big things, and this has happened with you?
Yeah, twins are alike. Twins are, but we do fight. My sister and I fight, like, all the time. Like, any twins you meet, you're going to, like, you know, because we did, like, development and stuff like that. So we're around a lot of twins because, like, in work and stuff like that. So, like, over the years, we've worked with lots of twins, and it's like when you're fighting with your twin, we said it's like biting your own arm because you're just like, you're fighting, but you can't win because they know you really well. It's like fighting with yourself, basically.
Wow,
that
is really interesting.
You're so alike. So it's really, because like some people you can maybe do like a head psych or something, because you might like, know a little bit more, but your twin knows you really well. So it's really hard to fight with your twin and win. It's like it just goes round and round and round and round and round.
Isn't that interesting?
Yeah.
That is so interesting. But I want to know, like, most twins usually have the same hairstyle, have the same kind of fashion sense. Now, what if one wants to cut their hair up and one wants it long? Wouldn't that cause an argument? Because there's so many more benefits of being exactly the same.
Yeah. Not really. Like my sister and I, like we both like long hair. We both, like being fit. So, we're pretty on the same page with that. We know other twins. One's gay, one's straight. There's two guys. One's gay, one's straight. And then there's twins that one might pick up weight or another one gets married, and so with twins but for me, like I'm like whatever she wants to do, like it's fine. I wear my hair parted down the middle. She wears hers over to the side. So we both have we look alike, but we don't look exactly alike. But I don't really care, like, if she cuts her hair, but I don't think she ever would because we both like long hair. So,
but so it's
and then
still the same, but your bodies, your weight, your basic
imagine two Barbaras being out there. Yeah, if you had two Barbaras, would you want to be like 20 or 30 pounds heavier than your twin? No, you're going to want to look good. So you're always it's got to keep you on top of your game because you're always going to want to look good because you get this other person that looks just like you.
It's like it gives you an edge a little bit, too, and also with just mentally, it keeps you strong with what you just said, but you have somebody to lean on. You have somebody that always has your back. You never feel alone, which would seem like you would not be depressed ever. It keeps you, like, happy. That's fortunate to have a twin. It's like
having a best friend all the time because you share all these experiences, like the first day of school, the first day of kindergarten, the first day. So you have like all of these things that you go through together. Sorry, I'm going to take this alarm off. You have like all these things that you go through together, which is really the same birthday, exactly. So you just are celebrating all of these milestones together.
December 2nd.
So exactly. We're
December
Sagittarius.
2nd.
Yeah, exactly.
Sagittarius, and do you know that? Well, I know you so well, but then when you interview somebody, you still want to, look them up. So I saw that your birthday was December 2nd, and then I saw the year, we won't say, but you and I and Rosie are the same age. Exactly. Well, not exactly.
Oh, wow.
I was born in August. Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
I didn't know that. I always thought you were younger.
Uh-huh.
Wow. Oh, wow.
No. I love that.
Yeah, that's so cool. That is, and it's so cool too because we did Playboy at such a young age. So you had your whole modeling career ahead of you because it's like you were so young when you did it. So there's so much work, that you can do. Work,
but you probably would not have gotten it. I mean, you probably wouldn't have gotten it if you weren't around 23, 24 because 23 is the main age. That is the statistic. That is usually the age of a playmate. I was 24.
Oh, I didn't know that.
But
I didn't realize that. Wow.
Mm-hmm.
Wow, because I think I did it when I was like 18 or 19. I was fairly young, so when I did it, it was just I think I might have been like 19 or maybe like 18 or 19. I think it was Playmate of the Year when I was 19, but I was actually fairly young to have done it.
Yes,
but,
you were
it was just
more
so much
young,
fun.
and I was 24, and you were under this average age. So that's kind of cool, and that's why when I came along in 1992, you were a Playmate in 89. So that's why you probably thought, maybe she's younger. See? But we were exactly the same.
And I knew the ropes, because I'd been there a couple of years before. I don't even remember why I was at the mansion, but I think what happened to me? Funny story here. I was living in Idaho, and then I was like, I'd won Playmate of the Year. And so the first time I was a Playmate, I wasn't really working a lot because I was in Idaho and they had to fly me, to go and do the work and stuff. So I remember Lori Hart, who worked with Playboy, was like, if you ever want to work a lot, you're going to have to move to LA. So I'd met, do you remember Carrie Cannell, the Playmate, saves the animals, that one? I'd met Carrie Cadell, and she was looking for a roommate. So I was like, okay, great. I actually need a roommate. So she was like, perfect. So and this is the time I had a fiance. So I broke up with my fiance. I loaded everything into my Toyota Celica, and I had all my clothing, and I drove from Idaho, to go move in with Carrie Cadell. So, and I just had her phone number, and because she lived in Park La Brea. So I go do all this stuff, and I'm so excited. I can't wait to get there. And then when I get there and I call Carrie, I'm like, hey, girl, I'm downstairs, can you let me in? And she's like, I'm in New York. And I'm like, huh? Like, she forgot about me. So she forgot I was even coming.
Oh.
So then I'm like, well, hey, do you have some keys or something? And she was like, no, I'm probably not going to be back for like a month because I'm dating this guy. And I was like, huh? So now here I am. I'm in my Toyota Celica. I've dumped my dude. I've got nowhere to go. I'm just like, I don't know.
That's horrible, Renee.
Isn't it horrible?
That is so irresponsible. I don't even like this story at all.
Yeah. So then, no, it gets better. It gets better. So then I'm kind of like, what am I going to do? So then I called the mansion, because I was been shot, my stuff there. And I was like, hey, it's Renee. I kind of need a little bit of time to chill out and kind of get figure out what my game plan here is because, so they were like, well, you can come stay for the night. So I go there and then I run into Kimberly. So I'm like over there and I'm telling her like what happened to me. And then she's like, you poor thing. You poor thing. You know what, Renee? Tell you what, forget Carrie. You don't need to stay there. You know what? You can stay and you can move in here, and I'm going to put you in the game room, and you can stay in the game room. Would that be okay? And I was like,
oh my goodness. That would be wonderful.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
And
so you've got to live at the Playboy Mansion?
Yeah, I got to live at the Playboy Mansion for like 4 months. And like the game room, there was like the orange and the blue one. So I had like one in the game room. And then so like I went from this chick that had nowhere to stay.
To that.
To that.
And that's the magic of Playboy, and that is the charm, and that's wonderful.
You came across my path was when I was living at the mansion because of Carrie, and she did the thing. So that I remember I was staying there, so I was kind of like, and then I think you came in and you were testing, and then that was when I was living at the mansion.
Oh, because I didn't even know you were living there. That is
I was living. Cool. I was living, and then I was friends with Kimberly. So then I would hang out with her. So that's why when she had Marston and Cooper, I remember I used to hang out with her because those guys were little, like really like babies.
Right.
She had just had
in
them.
high
so,
chair.
Yeah.
So Cooper was in the high chair when I came along.
Exactly.
Oh my gosh.
Exactly.
That is wonderful.
That's why.
Okay, so everybody who's listening, just so you know, Kimberly, that was Kimberly Hefner, Hef's wife, that invited her to stay there. So that was absolutely amazing. That story turned out actually in your favor. And I don't know how they treated just Carrie Cadell after that, but that was not cool. And that's not normal usually for a person to be that way.
I saw Carrie
that wasn't
after,
normal.
but she's like, she does like, she's doing animal rescue. So she does like, she's really salt of the earth. I don't even remember what happened, but
so she is a nice
she's
person.
actually, she's really cool. She does like animal rescues, and so I had no heart. I was actually kind of happy. So well,
that's cool. I never got to know her personally, but if I have her on for this series, I'm going to talk to her about that.
Exactly.
But Renee, okay, so the first question really with this Playboy Playmate series is, and let me, before I ask you the question, tell you why. This is a question that I get asked more than any other question regarding Playboy. So I just thought, hey, Johnny, let's do a series on this, and let's start off with this question because then it opens everything up, even though we've already opened up because you and I know each other really well. But here is the burning question. How did you become a Playboy Playmate?
Oh, my God. Okay, so I was in Idaho, and there was a Halloween contest, and my boyfriend at the time, he got Playboy, and I would look at all the girls like Ava Fabian, Pamela Stein, Devin, all of those girls, and I just thought they were so pretty. And so I was like, you know what? I'm going to go as a bunny. So I had this cute little white dress, and I got a pair of like little white ears, and then I had like a bunny tail. And so then I went like as a Playboy bunny, and it came down between me and a green M&M. But the green M&M, like her little outfit was pretty damn cute, even if I do say so myself. It was kind of fat. It was cute. So anyway, so she won. So then I lost, and I came off the thing, and then but then my boyfriend at the time was like, you know what? He's like, I swear, he's like, you could do Playboy. He's like, Playboy would take you. You could be a Playmate. And so he kind of planted the seed, and he got the magazine, because I didn't really, know about Playboy until I would see the Playmates and stuff, and I just thought they were so pretty. So then I just went and took some photos at a local photographer. I went and took some little, bikini shots and stuff like that, and then I sent them. But I'd sent mine into Chicago. I didn't actually go through LA.
But wait, did you call them first? Did you call Playboy?
No. You know what? They were having a search for the 35th anniversary Playmate. They were having the search for that, and so I sent my photos into that. And they had 14,000 entries, and they narrowed it down to 14 girls. And I was one of the 14. Yeah, but then I had done the Miss Idaho pageant at the same time, and there was only like 12 girls in this pageant. And so I remember I was kind of like, I thought I should have won. It's like, I got this, man. There's only like 12 girls. I got this cute dress. I got this. So this is like the week before I got notified by Playboy, and so I was kind of like, I was so certain. I was like, I'd done everything right. I got all the answers right. I should have, I should have won. But anyway, I didn't place. And I was like, what? I was like, I couldn't believe it. I didn't even place in this contest, and it was just like, I felt so bad. I was like, I can't even believe I didn't even place. I wasn't even in the top 5. So then that was like that weekend, and then on Monday I got a phone call, because I just was so sad. But then on that Monday I got a phone call, and then they were like, you know what, you were selected as one of these 14 girls that they want to shoot for Playboy. So then my whole, everything changed, because I went from being the saddest girl in the world to like the happiest girl in the world. So
wow.
Then, and then
now Playboy
to Chicago. Too. Yeah. Exactly. And then I was like, you know what? Out of these little 12 muesli girls, I didn't even place in the top 5, but out of these other ones, there was 14,000, and I got the top 14.
Yeah.
So then that was for 89, which I didn't win. They had Fauna McLaren, and she was the 30. That was the search I was in.
Right.
I remember that.
I remember that. I remember that. I saw her in your year. Right.
Yes. She was so pretty. So she won the 35th anniversary search. Yeah. I
have some inside scoop on that. Marilyn Grabowski, because I was asking Alexis Vogel, who we did a tribute to on this show. I was asking her, okay, so how did they narrow it down? And, we were talking about Fauna and that she won, and Alexis told me it's because she looks like Marilyn. Marilyn sees herself in Fauna, and that's why she was chosen.
Yeah, I mean, Fauna was good. And Fauna,
she's very
definitely
beautiful, and I really love her.
She's beautiful, and she's photographed great.
But she does
But then I
look like Marilyn.
I remember Arnie Freitag said, you know what, Renee? He said, you don't want the 35th, because I was so disappointed I didn't win. And he goes, you don't want the 35th. He says, you want Playmate of the Year. And I remember I was like, what? And he's like, they've never had an anniversary Playmate wins Playmate of the Year. They just get the anniversary. He says, so don't worry about that. Because I remember I was so bummed. And he was like, no. He goes,
so true,
they've never had an African American Playmate of the Year. He goes, if you got that, he's like, it would change your whole life. And I was like, what? Because I had no idea, because I didn't really know Playboy. I didn't know there was no Black Playmates of the Year. I didn't know any of this stuff. So like he was like,
I didn't even know there was a Playmate of the Year at all when I became a Playmate. So it was like I was happy with just Playmate of the month.
We were kind of like, we were probably just happy just to be in there. But so then he kept telling me, he's like, if they pick you, it's going to change your world. So, but then everybody was like, they won't pick you because you are Black. So then I was kind of like, well, that kind of sucked, you know. But then I was like, well, we'll see. But then Hef was kind of like, I remember Kimberly was like, Hef wants to meet you. So then, you know, because he wanted to see what I was like. So that's like, if you, you know, when they were considering you for Playmate of the Year, he actually wanted to sit down, meet with you, talk with you, you know, and just get to know you because you were representing the brand. So I remember she was like, but I was scared. I was so scared to go to that.
Yeah, because you're very young. You're only 19 years old.
I was 19, and I remember I was like, oh, my God. I was like, this is, like, so scary. And it was, like, him and his friends and her and all these people. And I think I can remember. I think Stephen Wade. I don't remember. But anyway, so I did my little dinner, but it was, you know, but I was actually friends with her, so that made it easier for me because I knew her, so it wasn't
with Kimberly.
Scary. Yeah, I knew Kimberly, so it definitely, you know. And then he just was like, he was so down to earth, and he was like telling me all of these songs, you know, that were like, you know, there's a song called Someday Renee, and he was like telling me all of these things, like, you know, about my name and about these songs, and then I was just like, you know what? He's just so, because he was actually trying to make me feel comfortable. So then he was like, let me tell you some fun facts about Idaho. So then he was like telling me all this stuff. Yeah.
Because one of my questions was if you ever did have a real one-on-one conversation with him, because, you know, he was much older than us. And I never really had a very deep conversation with Hef. It was more like just kind of chummy, smaller talk, you know. So I always wanted to find that playmate who has had a really in-depth conversation. Was it, or was it just like, it wasn't
in-depth like you're saying.
Sweet.
Yeah, it wasn't in-depth like, you know, but it was just more I got to know him. But I think more importantly, he got to know me. I think it's what it was.
He saw the qualities in you.
Yeah, to make sure,
like,
because it was to make sure that you would represent Playboy well, and because it was so much exposure and it was such a big deal, and it really was. Like when I did win, it was a life-changing event, because I literally went from somebody that was working in Idaho at Hewlett-Packard, you know, and then I went from being there to being like on Oprah, being on CNN, being on Larry King Live. It was a major thing. And then at the time, because when I had first started modeling, you didn't see a lot of black women on the cover. Naomi Campbell had just hit. Naomi Campbell just, you know, like she just became everything. And then all of a sudden you started to see all these, in that year that I won, the first Miss USA, which I think was Carolyn Giss, was black. And then Debbie Turner, the Miss America, was black. And then myself was black. So it was kind of really symbolic. But then when I remember during my party, it looked like Hef had jumped on the bandwagon and because they said, oh, did you just pick Renee because the Miss USA is black and the Miss America is black? And he said, no. He says, I had actually picked her 5 months before these two were announced. He said, but I'm going to tell you what which I really, this is one of the things people don't know about Hef, is he's like really into civil rights. He's really into like equality.
And
he was like, you know what?
And not only that,
he said,
way ahead of his time, right?
That. Yeah, he was way ahead of the curve. I mean, way ahead of it. But he was just like, you know what? He goes, I'm just sad it took me 35 years to get this girl up here. He goes, I should have had one of these. So, you know, that was the thing, which was really cool. And then when I started to,
Renee, Renee, it was not because it was time for a black Playmate of the Year. It was because you were beautiful and you were right for that part.
Exactly.
So that's what I love, the story that you're telling us.
Yeah, he had nothing to do with the fact that she was African American. He's like, I just liked her. But that's the thing. That a lot of people don't realize, that he's on that forefront, because I didn't realize he was the first one that published Alex Haley's writing. I didn't realize he was the first one to allow blacks into the Playboy Club when they weren't supposed to be in there, because they had segregated that stuff.
Right.
So there was a couple films that they do on Hef, like where it goes in and they talk about his impact on, like, you know, society and you know, and people of color. But boy, I swear, if you will totally look at that man a different way, aside from Playboy, because he really was on the forefront of that. So I think that's where people are going to be like, oh my God, he's even cooler than what I thought, because he was actually doing the way on that.
Sammy Davis Jr. on.
Exactly.
Yes.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
So, but people,
he cared on Playboy After Dark.
Yeah, that was one. But a lot of that stuff, he he was having these black entertainers come on when they weren't even supposed to be like coming into clubs, but he actually had them on.
I know.
So that's the thing, like, yeah, which is really cool. And then I was so proud to be part of that history, so proud to be part of these beautiful women, you know, amongst yourself and everybody else. It's just such a great history.
I saw a list
quite amazing.
One time, I think it was Discovery Channel or something. They were doing a list of the top 50 greatest Americans of all time. And on the list were the understandable names like Abraham Lincoln, Thomas Jefferson, George Washington. But what's interesting is Hugh Hefner was on the list.
He should have been.
Should be.
You know what? And you know what's really interesting, too? When I was in, because I went to FITM, the Fashion Institute of Design and Merchandising, and I was in my history class, and they were going over history. So we were going over all these, like, people, like JFK, Marilyn Monroe, all of these historic things that had happened in history that really changed our society. And then the guy, like the professor, like he just starts, his little eyes start to light up like a little Christmas tree when he starts talking about the sexual revolution. And he's just like, and the person who started this whole thing is Hugh Hefner. And then he just goes on and on. So he's actually in the history books over there as part of the person. And I was just like, and so I came up to the guy after the thing, and I said, you know what? I just have to tell you. I said, I actually, because he didn't know who I was or anything like that. I said, I actually was a Playmate. And he was just like, oh, that guy was so blown away. But he was just like, he is one of the people that sparked this revolution. Because I was like, and it's actually in history.
Wow.
Look, it's like, it talks about how when he came out with Playboy, that just, and then it was, it made it okay for a woman to have an orgasm. It made it okay for women to enjoy sex. But they were saying prior to Hef going out and saying, hey, women,
it wasn't.
It's okay to get your freak on. Yeah, you couldn't really do it without being called a whore. So
right.
They said he kind of made it okay for women to go out and be a woman and just, go do what the guys do, because you couldn't do it. Prior to that Playboy and that thing he did, they said that kind of, it was all the gloves came off, like with sexuality, and it made it actually okay for us women to, to go out and be sexual. So, I think
he
is
really in the study curriculum.
Yes, absolutely.
Then.
He's in the curriculum. Wow. If you go in like the 55, because I believe that's when the first Playboy came out. But if you go look, they talk about what sparked the revolution, and it was that cover in Playboy, because that was like the first time when something like of that magazine actually have her on the cover.
Mid-December, I remember Marilyn Monroe, 1953.
Mm-hmm. And it's in the history book. But we were talking about all
I did not know that.
Stuff. Yeah, but I remember I was pretty
so
proud.
You really,
like, wow.
You really are a piece of history, and that must feel amazing.
We all are, but at the end of the day, it's like you're part of this world that Playboy that have created that makes everybody, any woman that appears in Playboy, any woman that goes or, that has done that, it just makes you part of that history, which, and people to this day are like, oh my God, you were my first crush or whatever. So it's so much fun, because then they tell me like when I saw my issue and all of that stuff. So you're part of their history of like, crushes and stuff like that, which is cool too.
And I bet you're a part of his curriculum now, besides Hugh Hefner. I bet on all of his classes after you came and introduced yourself as I bet.
You didn't know. Yeah, I don't even know. Yeah, we laugh.
As part of our alumni is Renee Tenison. And that is amazing. And this is what I also love about Johnny too, because he understands that people out there don't understand that we are way more than just a pretty face and a great body. There's a lot more upstairs than people give us credit for, still to this day. And Johnny said, anybody who doesn't agree with our Playboy Playmate series, there's no room for that here, because we are women of substance, and we are more than, yes. And that I want to credit Johnny for.
It doesn't define you. It definitely doesn't define you. And like I said, and there's so many creative aspects, and Playboy is just part of our creation as well. That's just part of your, your expression of how you see yourself, or how you're just part of history. And but I definitely believe Playmates have a lot to offer. There's Playboy, or people in general that have posed in Playboy. I think it's just one of those things. Everybody, that has done it, they're proud of it. Like I just think,
yes.
but then once you do it, you go in and you reinvent yourself. You know, you go in and become a radio host. You go in and become a successful model. So it's like that's stepping stone to open up all these doors, which it truly
really
did for me and yourself. Be at the back, because back in the day when we did it, you were more of the celebrity. Yeah, because we Playmates were actually very famous back then. I definitely think probably more famous back then than now. Yeah.
Instantaneous celebrityism, and that's what they prepare you for too, which is wonderful. But I would like to know, there's an actual catch to this. Since you are an identical twin, okay, did you have to go and ask Rosie, would this be okay if I pose for Playboy? Because basically they're going to be knowing what your body looks like too, uncovered, because we're identical. How did that go down?
Yeah, she's here. She knows the story. Because she asked the story about like what happened when I posed for Playboy. No, it's okay. I'll set it up over here. I'll set it up. So I was going to go do the Playboy. So I said, hey, I was like, I'm thinking about sending my photos into Playboy. And I was like, what do you think? You know, and she was like, no, I sent my photos in, and they had called. And then I was like, hey, I got Playboy wants me to fly out to Chicago, and do you want to do it? Because I told him I have a twin. And then she was like, no, I'm not going to do it. And then furthermore, everybody's going to think you're a sleaze. And I was like, what? And she was like, yeah. And I was like, well, okay. And then I was like, I'm going to go do it anyway. And they can think I'm sleazy. I was like, but I don't care. I know I'm not. And then she was like, okay. She's like, whatever. We'll see how that works for you. I was like, okay.
Wow.
Yeah. So then,
because she wasn't walking in your shoes at that moment. Because even though you're an identical twin, you're still living your daily different life, and you're into it.
No, but I was shy. I was shy. I never really. I'm sorry. I have to get out of this story. So hey, Barbara, how are you? Anyway, I was like shy. I hadn't really modeled, and then and I was being a prude. And actually, I had a jealous boyfriend too at the time. And then when he found out, of course, she had a twin, then he wanted us both to do it. So then I was like, yeah, he wanted us to pose together. So,
he
did. Yeah, he always wanted us to pose together. But and then he was like, I know there's two of you, so the only thing better than one would be two. So, but by then, by then it was too late. And then I had really questioned my choice there, because then my sister ended up winning the Playmate of the Year. And then, so she got like $100,000. She got like a car. She got all this fame and notoriety. And meanwhile, I was over there working at like Albertsons, not in the grocery store, more like the warehouse where you pack the boxes. And I was working on the night shift, like the 50 hours a week. So there was like,
no
go to
way.
Her while she was living at the mansion, dating that Chippendale. And then that's when I came back and I quit my job and I moved to LA. And that's how I
Rosie,
LA.
this is incredible. I didn't know all of that.
That's pretty much how it went down. Yeah, I saw the Chippendales, I saw the mansion, I saw LA, and then I came, and then So anyway, I'll put her back. Yeah. So that's basically was Rosie's little story. So then she was feeling kind of weird, because then I got all the fame, I got the fortune, and she.
But I understand. But see, another thing I read too just today, that in your year that you were a Playmate, there was a twin layout, wasn't there?
Who was it?
I read it, and it was, okay, I put it on my notes, Karen and Mirjam. Karen and Mirjam Van Breschuten.
Yeah, no.
Mid-September.
Yeah, you're right. The blonde twins. And no, but because Rosie passed, but then he wanted twins. Because they were like, you could be the first twins, and then, then the twins were in my year. Yeah, you're right. I forgot about this.
Well, he had originally now Rosie may regret that a little bit, but it all worked out really well, because I modeled more with Rosie than you. I
it
did. I
work
modeled
out.
with her more.
Yeah, exactly.
Not that she was
'cause I
getting
doing
more, but
acting.
I mean, she got her
Yeah.
share of modeling
She did.
work.
Yeah,
that's
she
for
did.
sure.
And she definitely did more modeling. I went more acting, but then Hef was always like, you know, whenever I'd see him, he was always like, I have to have you guys pose. And then I'd gone to a party over at Devin's house, and Hef was there at the party, and then I don't know, is this in the picture with Hef at Devin's house? But anyway, he when I saw him, he was like, I need to talk to you. And so I went over, and he was like, I have always, you know, that's my biggest regret that you and your sister didn't pose together in Playboy.
Wow.
And he's like, I will fly you and your sister anywhere in the world. He's like, I will pay you. He's like, I just want to shoot you guys in a pictorial together. He's like, so.
And this was like 10
know,
years after, right?
This was
10 years.
This was in
2002.
Oh yeah, something like that. It was like 2000,
Well,
something like that.
I looked that up too,
and then
Renee.
Yeah, and then
I looked
he
that
posted
up.
me, and he said, I will pay. So then we were talking to the guys over at Playboy, and they were kind of like, pick somewhere Playboy hasn't shot, because we were like, well, what about Tahiti and the Bahamas? And they were like, no, they've shot there. They said, and then this guy who was one of the guys, the production assistant, said the only place they haven't shot is Cuba. And then he said, pick Cuba. And so then we picked Cuba. And then that's where we shot that pictorial, was in Cuba.
Was that cool?
But when we got over there.
Can I say something?
Yeah, go ahead.
I am from, my father's from Cuba. And, and I mean, that was brave of you to choose that. I mean, I personally, to be honest, I probably would have chosen Antarctica over that. I mean,
why was it dangerous at that time?
Well,
it got hairy. It got hairy because
it did.
Castro, it did get kind of hairy for us, because they had to get permission from Castro, and he was like, cool. And so he had given Playboy carte blanche, and they were spending a fortune on this photo shoot. It cost so much money. But then, and we were supposed to fly from Cuba to Belize. But then, on the third day of shooting, when we got into Cuba, or maybe the fourth, 3 or 4 days into shooting, Castro got pissed. So he was like, so they were kind of like, everybody was kind of worried, because the production people were like, oh my God, Castro's is bugging out because of the photo shoot. So then Playboy got scared because we weren't done shooting, but they were like, fuck this, let's get on a plane, let's get out of here, because we didn't want him to keep us in Cuba. So then we ended up shooting, because we were with Stephen Wada there, and we just said, fuck it, let's jump on the plane and get out of here. And then we just flew back to the United States. But it was so scary, because when we were over there, it's like, it was definitely, it wasn't glamorous like you think, but it got kind of scary on that last day.
So Johnny knows that. That is scary. I remember I did a Playmate promotion in over in Russia, and it was scary at that time, but not probably the same kind of experience you had.
You got to understand something, not to jump in, but I mean, it's a place. I think I told this story on, Castro ran everything. Like when my father was a kid, he actually put a thing in. There's a hurricane that almost hit Cuba, but didn't hit. You heard it. And then Fidel Castro put this in the papers. He said, Fidel Castro chases away a hurricane with his airplane.
Yeah. Okay. So,
now, nobody believes it, but nobody says anything.
Mentality.
But he felt like
mentality.
he owned the fish. No, he felt like, because we were talking to the people, and they were like, he feels he owns the fish in the water. He's like that.
Just
so I was
everything.
Like, really?
He owns it all.
They were like, yeah, he's like a dictator. But we were kind of like, and then I was like, do I really want to be stuck in a jail over here with this guy that says he owns the fish in the water? I was like, nah.
No way.
Yeah, so
Thank
we laughed.
goodness you got out of there.
Yeah, but we got beautiful photos.
That pictorial was gorgeous, by the way. You and Renee, you and Rosie was absolutely gorgeous together in that pictorial.
Thank you. It was fun. It was fun to get to do it. And it was one of these, once in a lifetime things you'll never forget. So, and that's what I always tell people, like Playboy, it opened the door to so many opportunities, so many friends, so many places that you would never get to go to. And they paid for it. You got to go all over.
And no regrets now.
Yeah,
because
no
now
regrets,
Rosie had her time too with Playboy, and everybody appreciated her. And then it was more, okay, now we've leveled up, it's equal, and all is well. And just so much transpired. And that leads me to my next question. Okay, because I modeled a lot with both of you for a lot of catalogs. And then, here's my question. Did you guys ever stand in for the other on photo shoots maybe that you couldn't make? When we don't have that luxury as being just one person, if you can't make it, you have to make that dreaded phone call. Oh my gosh, I have an emergency, or something came up, and you're going to let down so many people. But then, no, you in your back pocket, I've got somebody who looks just like me. Send her. So did this happen often?
That did happen. It happened to me on 2 occasions. One was with Playboy, and Playboy was doing a Real Men Don't Watch pregame. I don't know if you remember. That was in the Bahamas, and they had flown me and maybe 20 Playmates to the Bahamas, and we were doing some pregame show, where we were frolicking around in the water and having fun. So that was but it was live, on Playboy. I think it was on the channel. So when they were doing the Super Bowl, instead of watching the pregame, you could watch the Playmates. Well, anyway, I had also booked Married with Children at the time. So my sister, but I didn't want to turn the job down, because I was and she needed money, and she was had just got here. So I was you know what, just go to the job, just act like you're me, and it'll be cool. So she goes to Married with Children, and so she's acting like she's me this whole entire time. She's got this part. She's working with Lisa Boyle and a couple other Playmates and stuff like that. She's just pulling it off, and she's acting like it's me. Well, one of the writers was my friend named Matt. And so then Matt's kind of hey, girl, what's up? And Rosie's kind of and she's there's this guy, and I was act like you know him. Just be really cool. So then my sister was just being overly cool to him. Just they were the best of friends,
Overly
So then
cool.
Matt was I really you're so cool, but she was being just beyond cool to this guy. So then they're both sitting there watching the TV, and then all of a sudden the Real Men Don't Watch pregame live comes on. And so he's looking at it, and he's wow. He's that says Renee Tenison. And he's looking, and he's yeah, how can you be here, and be in the Bahamas at the same time? And then Rosie was that was pre-recorded. She just starts lying. And she tells him it's me. I'm here with you. And so he's kind of oh, okay. For a minute I thought it was live, and she was no, it's it's recorded. Although it was live. Years later, we tell this guy the story, and he just he loves it every time he sees it. It's just he loves the story because literally. You got busted, you know what I mean? So
you got busted, but it wasn't bad. Was there ever a bad thing where it went?
There was a bad
awry?
one where we had booked.
Tell us about that one.
I had booked a Ford commercial, a car commercial, and I had also booked a thing for Robinson's May at the time. It was a clothing company. So of course I'm going to go do the commercial for Ford. And it was only supposed to be a one-day shoot. Well, it was kind of foggy and all this stuff happened, so they didn't get all the shots. So I needed to shoot the next day, but I also had booked the Robinson's May the following day. So then I had told my sister, I was hey, just go to this job, act like you're me, and so she gets there, and she's working with this makeup artist that had done her makeup for Fredericks of Hollywood. And so then the lady's oh my God, it's so freaky. You have the same scars that Rosie has. And then Rosie was I know, isn't it freaky? But it actually was Rosie. So she's over there, she's lying for the whole day. She's lying. She knows all that. She knows a lot of these people, but she's lying the whole entire day. Well, at the end of the day, they're like, you know what? We need to book you for tomorrow. But Rosie was like, no. So then she called. You called. Something happened. And then they called her agent. And then the agent was like, well, she's actually, she's not on Robinson's May. She's actually on the beach in Malibu. And then they're like, no, she's sitting right here with us. And they're like, no, I've got confirmation. She's in Malibu, and they're doing another day. So she's not available. So then Rosie says she looks over, and she sees, like, the whole entire crew's coming towards her. And they're like,
looking at her.
They're like, who are you? Who are you? And then she's like, well, what do you mean? They're like, we know you're not Renee. We know you're not who you say you are, but we're like, we don't care. And she's like, I'm Rosie. I'm her sister. So that's what she gets
wow.
And then the director's like, I don't give a fuck who you are. All I know is you need to be here tomorrow. So then she's like, I don't give a fuck who you are. But you have to be here tomorrow to do the pickups.
That's funny. Well, that's not that
like,
bad.
It was like, yeah, but you know, it wasn't bad for me, but it was for my sister.
For her.
Hilarious.
Talk about anxiety the whole day.
But they laugh. You know, the people laugh. They're just like some of their favorite stories. You know, let them get busted. So stuff like that. It's really great because you can be at two places at once. So
what did you do with the money? Say she did this for you, or vice versa. Then the money. That was
normally.
Did you just split it?
I let her have it because she had just came to LA and was just starting out modeling. So I let her have it because I was actually
gone through hell, by the way, for that day.
Yeah.
Yes, Johnny.
Have you ever done any work with the Barbie twins or any other Playmate twins?
Yes, we did.
But they're not Playmates.
We did the Barbie twins with. I believe it might have been Sally, Jesse, Raphael. We did, my sister and I, we did double men. So we worked with a ton. We worked with Tian Tamara. We worked with a ton of twins. Oh, well, actually, and then, but that's why I was saying twins are kind of like, you know, they're like freaky, but triplets are like, they're just totally freaky because there's three people that look alike.
Well, you know,
because I know people are like,
Because it's funny.
Triplets freak me out.
There are twins that we've been trying to get on the show. They're psychics. They're the Jenna Jamesons and the Linda. They're the psychic twins. And we wanted to get them on.
You were trying to get them on. I've never heard of this before.
I've
never heard of these people.
Yeah, they're just the psychics that. And I always thought it was kind of interesting, you know, if you ever get them on, to have a read for another set of twins. You know.
Oh, yeah. If you guys are open to that. That'd be cool.
Yeah, twins are cool. My sister dated a twin too, so like, you know, twins are cool. Like they're cool, but they can be a little freaky. And then when you throw a triplet in there, it's just like, and then the triplets, you know, from a lot of triplets I know, it's like a really weird dynamic because then usually two of the triplets are friends and then one's on the outside.
Yeah, because three's a crowd.
One triplet gets left out in the cold. Yeah, and
sure,
then
three's like a total crowd.
Yeah. Yeah, because when we did double men, they would interview. Yeah, lots of triplets too.
Elvis was a twin. So.
Oh, that's right. Could you imagine if there were two of him? Oh my God.
I know, and the same thing that happened to my twin at birth. The Aaron was his name. Elvis's Aaron, and he died at birth. But mine were never going to be identical, and this is amazing when that happens. And do you feel special that you are a twin?
Absolutely. I definitely, you know, people are always like, it just gives you an extra added advantage because it's always like people always take a double look. They always like, oh my God, because you're similar in height, you're similar in size. They're like, and everybody loves twins. Let's face it. So when they see you, it makes them smile. You know, it does.
Yeah.
And they're like, oh my God.
It's always like positive.
It's always such a smile. I think it makes you smile when you see two little beings that look alike. It makes you smile for sure.
And both of you have always been so upbeat and positive and smiling, and it gives you that little edge. You always have, like we were talking about before the show, that it's like you always have each other to lean on. You have each other's back. That's special.
Which is important in LA, because LA is
wonderful.
Tough. You know, LA is tough, for sure.
Oh, yeah. It is tough. But you know what? What is so great is Playboy, and that opens so many doors. I read that you've done over 30 national commercials. That's amazing. That's a lot. That is a lot.
Yeah. I mean, but you think about, over the time we've been here, it's been so long, and we started like in the 90s. So it's like, your body of work, it's over the years. So yeah, it's easy to do.
And you were on Price is Right. And, I grew up watching Price is Right. I love that show.
My sister
on summer
did
vacation.
more of that show. I did a few shows, but she actually did more. And then we worked we did a lot of work together, which was fun because we did Coors Light and just a ton of work together, which was really fun.
Okay,
a lot of
so
television
that
shows.
evolved. It evolved into then they would hire you both, and would it be they would say, okay, if you could do it, then you do it. If she's available, she does it. Or was it really?
Well, no, she did more modeling than me, and I did more acting. But then when we were acting, we would have parts written in for us. Steve Harvey wrote a part in for Rosie and I. So then we would have parts written for us, or Martin. We did the Martin show, and they wrote a part in for us. So we were always doing stuff where, Arsenio Hall he'd written a part where there were these two little white girls, that were drinking chocolate milk. These little white twins were drinking chocolate milk, and then he'd written a skit, and then he said, when I grow up, I want to be just like, and then they snapped, and then it turned into Rosie and I. So people were always doing that kind of fun stuff with twins because it just gives you a little extra added, benefit because there's two of you, so they can have more fun with it, which is cool.
Thank goodness that you went with the decision to actually go forward with the whole Playboy, because I know shortly after that, Rosie must have thought, okay, yes, this is the girl next door stuff. This is the wholesome thing.
It is, yeah.
People, they don't know.
Scandalous.
They don't know right away.
They don't. And then, I was saying, when you do go to Playboy shoots, they're so professional. They're so, it's all about the picture. You know what I mean? There's nothing.
You don't even feel nude.
No, exactly. And then matter of fact, they're just all about the photo. They're all about the lighting. They're all about, they could give a rat's ass less if you're naked. They're just trying to get the image. So,
they're not getting all excited, people.
No, not
I get
at
that
all.
question all the time. Or are we? What are you thinking when you're doing the post? No, we're thinking of making that photograph perfect.
Yeah, the shoots are too small.
That's on our mind.
It's kind of hot.
A lot different than porn.
Exactly.
This is art.
Exactly.
This is definitely art. Wow, this is wonderful. Okay, so then I want you to take us through, because I've never even heard of what happens when you get Playmate of the Year. And I've been at all of the Playmate of the Year luncheons, which are amazing. It's like a sorority of all of us. We get to see all of our friends at the same time, the same day. Wonderful. But what happens the next day and all throughout the year? What requirements are there of you?
Oh, my God.
You get $100,000, you get a brand new car, and then what?
You were on, on mine, I was on a 30 or 40-day tour. So as soon as I that you do all the press, of course, from your PMOY, and because it was the thing where it was it had broken a barrier for Playboy, it was on everything. So literally, I was flying to DC, I was flying to New York, I was flying to, I actually had. It's a funny story. I had a book signing in New York, and there were thousands of people at this book signing. I was signing magazines. And I remember I was in the New York Playboy office, and all of a sudden I'm getting ready to go to do my book signing. And then Cindy Rakowitz is like, I have to tell you something. And I was like, what? And she was like, we got a death threat. And I was like, what? And she was like, yeah. She's like, this guy says if you come and you sign if you come to the signing, he's gonna shoot you. And I'm like, oh my God.
Oh God.
So I was like, I asked Cindy, I'm like, well, what would you do? And she was like, well, we've got, because they had this, I think it's Neil Spots. He was from the former FBI guy. She's like, so we'll bring in the security with you, because you always traveled with security anyway, like in New York and stuff. And they're like, we'll bring him in, we'll shelter you. But she's like, and I was like, well, how many people are there? It's like, is there a lot of people? And she's like, there's like over 1,000. And then she's like, but it just depends, do you want to let this guy ruin your day? And I was like, you know what? I was like, you're right. I was like, and then she's like, we'll bring you in. We'll guard you when you come in. She's like, I think he's bluffing. And I was like, you know what? You're right. I was like, I'm not going to let this fool that called up. So I went, I did my book signing. So that was like, it was kind of scary, like when I was in New York, but they had me going all over basically the whole East Coast, West Coast, like everywhere. So you're just constantly.
So you're earning that $100,000.
Oh God,
I have a question.
Because
did they find out why there was a death threat?
He was mad because I was African American. Yeah, and then she was like, "This isn't right.
Goodness.
He's trying to spoil." Yeah, and then I was like, you know what? I was like, he was mad because I was black and I'd won, and he was like a racist. But I was like, you know what? I was like, for that alone, I'm not going to let this guy win and steal my shine.
Good for you.
Because he was mad because I was African American. But then that kind of pissed me off, because then I was like, why should this fool go in and ruin my little thing? Because I was like, they're not going to hear about the death threat. They're just going to hear that I canceled. And then I'm just going to look really bad.
Right.
So,
but that took a lot of courage, because you don't really know.
Yeah, and then Playboy, what they do is, because they send you to like all these classes, and they have you, before you go do this tour, they have to send you to all of these classes where you're doing like tons of interviews, and they're teaching you of like what to say. And so when you go to do this, it's not quite as scary, because otherwise if you just got thrown like, onto this, because when I went to Oprah, they had things that had broken down. It was like, I think it was sex symbols of the 90s. And I was on there with like Willie Galt and Rachel McLeish and
wow.
And the one of the housewives was on the show, I believe. But anyway, we were on that show, and I remember when I was sitting there on the panel, there was this lady, and she was like really angry at me. She was so mad, and so she kept telling Oprah, "I have a question I want to ask her." And then Oprah was like, well, what's the question? And she's like, I want to know, like, she set women's rights back, and she was really pissed off because she felt like I had set women's rights back, and I was like, because she was a feminist, and I was like some chick that had posed nude that had set women back like 50 years, and I remember I was so happy because I was like, oh my God, and then they were coming back, to be like, hey, we're back, so I was like, oh my God, because I was like, I was waiting for it to go and get that lady, but then she didn't go to her, so the lady kept jumping up. And then I remember I was so grateful that Oprah was like, she was just like, she's like, I'm proud of you. So, but she didn't go to the lady, because I was like, I'm going down, because this lady was so mad. She was so angry. But I was like, what am I going to say? But then I was just like, you know what? I'm going to tell her, you know what? If you believe in women's rights, well, I believe in my own rights. And my own rights, I wanted to do Playboy, so sit down.
Yeah.
I have the right to
pose. One have to do with the other.
Yeah.
You really dealt with a lot, Renee.
Yeah, but that, thank God, Playboy kind of they had you doing like of these things. I think they did it with all the Playmates of the years, because you were doing media, you were doing situations where you had people. I went on another thing where I had this preacher that was kind of, he was kind of like Playboy had mentioned the fact, because my mom is white, so they had mentioned that in the article. And so then he was kind of like, well, so he was kind of upset with me. So he was kind of like, I need to talk to you. So then he explained his situation. And I said, well, yeah, I said, my mom is white. I said, but for, and the fact that they did say I'm African American, but I said it wouldn't be right to denounce her, because I wasn't saying, you know what I mean? So there's all these different facets, like when you were to go do these interviews that would pop up where people they took issue with things that were said, or the feminist, or your race or whatever. So it was kind of good, because Playboy just didn't throw you out to the wolves. They actually had done some little interviews with you, so you were used to trying to able to debate this stuff. Yeah.
But we don't want to downplay you as an individual, because basically you were really at the right place at the right time, because you handled all of this with such grace and with an upbeat attitude, because this is not easy. This is not an easy topic, this racism, and you've dealt with that. And here, you deserve to feel proud of your accomplishments, but then on top of that, you had to deal with this. I commend you. I really commend you.
Thank you. And it was an honor. Like I said, it was an honor to be picked. It was an honor to represent. And, if that was the thing that came along with it, it was fine. Because I'm sure a lot of people have dealt with that in the past when you're doing
not
something.
Many
and
people
you are
can handle it the way
you,
not the way you handled it, Renee, with a smile on your face at all times. I know you and I know Rosie very well. And you always had a great attitude. And that's not easy, dealing with some of these things.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Okay, so now I would like to move on to another aspect of one of the most important aspects of your life. You reinvented yourself. Not only did you reinvent yourself, you became an amazing entrepreneur woman who is to this day, years after you started your new career, successful. You and Rosie, your sister, tell us what you did. I remember very well. Okay, my daughter was about 5 years old, and she was taking a ballet class. And we moseyed in after the ballet class to this store, and I'm like, whoa, this is cool. Varga? I love Varga. And I was telling her a little bit about Varga, the artist, and, we wandered into this store, and I was looking around, and lo and behold, there you were. And I'm like, this store is great. This is so beautiful. It was Christmas time. Gorgeous. And you're like, this is my store. I was blown away. Tell us how that, and then you went back to school, and tell us a little bit about it.
I just reinvented myself because I'd done modeling and acting for about 20 years. And then, I wanted to hang up my tail and my bunny ears and just, go a different way, because I that's pretty much how I made my living, was modeling and acting. But then I was kind of like, what can I do? And then I thought about when my sister and I were sewing and designing our stuff for junior high, and remember the first day of school. So it's kind of like, I always loved doing that. So then I went to FITM, got the degree, and so then I was going to do a clothing line, but then I was kind of like, you know what, that's not really what I want to do, but I kind of wanted to do a store. So then my sister and I opened our first brick and mortar store in in Santa Monica, California in 2006. And then we were trying to come up with names, and we were always inspired by Alberto Vargas, and he did all the Varga girls and the pinups and all of that stuff. So the name was either Varga or Sisters with a Z. So we were kind of like, I wonder what would be good, but then we were so fascinated, like, with that world of pinup, and it kind of reminded me a little bit of Playboy. It has that kind of, cool, unique thing. And he actually published a lot of Vargas's in Playboy, so we went with Varga because that, like, seemed more, like, closer to what we did. So that's kind of when we came up with Varga, and then we just basically went to all the things we love, which are, we love vintage, we love color, we love Marilyn Monroe, and all of these icons and people from the past, and it's like a walk down memory lane. So that's basically, and then we incorporated fashion. So we just basically incorporated all the things that we love into this company, which is Varga. And we have one in the Westfield, Topanga in the Village. There's an outdoor mall out there, and then we also have one in the Santa Monica Place Mall, right directly outside of Nordstrom. So now we have 2 locations.
For how many years?
Yeah. Oh my God,
we've been doing
this probably for like, probably like 15 years. But I absolutely love it. We love it.
Amazing. Wow.
I have a question, but I don't want to deviate from what we're talking about. I mean, what Playmate do you think from the past, before you were a Playmate, do you think you're most like? And we can get back to what you were talking about afterwards. But
which Playmate or?
Yes.
That I'm most like?
Yes. Similar to.
Wow, that's a good question.
I've never been asked that question. Johnny comes up with
that's
crazy
good.
questions.
It's a good question.
It's
okay,
good.
the question
It makes you think, right? We're not prepared for that question.
The reason I say that is I
with the
interviewed Terry
question.
Lind. What?
Stick with
It's
the
a good question.
Let her think, Johnny.
I would say the person that I would probably think I'm most like as a Playmate. Wow.
And you know what? I
don't
don't even know this question, but it doesn't mean looks. Maybe it's the way you think, or
no. I'm just trying to think of who I think encompasses the most of this would be like me. I would say it would be Lisa Matthews, who was my roommate. She was Playmate of the year after me. She and I were very alike, very, very. She was like a little white version of me. I just reconnected with her.
Totally cool.
Wow. I know.
I loved her.
She's
like
I love her.
Professional and she has all the qualities that you have.
And I would say I was really, because she and I were, she was like, we were very similar. The way we thought was very similar. So I would definitely have to say her, and I would have to say maybe Devin. Devin Vasquez.
Very
I kind of like
oriented.
Yeah, for sure. I'd
but
probably
a good
say those
balance,
two.
though.
For
good
sure,
balance,
for sure. But
though.
Devin's got she's really creative. She's always doing stuff with photo shoots. She's always doing stuff. The little she does like her barbecue sauce or her Creole sauce. She's always
very
creative herself. Yeah, she's very creative. So,
but mixing the creativity with the business.
But it's so cool though, because you have all these Playmate friends, that they go back for decades. You're meeting these girls like in the 90s, and then then you're meeting them like when they're girls, and then as they're women. So it's just it's a relationship that you've known, and you've all gone up through all this whole thing, and you all, it's like I was telling, I had done an interview for Playboy about a month ago, but I was saying it almost seems like a dream because you're thinking back to all these parties, and Hef would just do all this stuff, and bear in mind, I don't even think he drank, but he would do all this stuff for us. Like, when you go to these parties.
Especially now that it's over, right?
Yeah, now that it's over.
Now that it's over, you really start to reflect.
Yeah, and you're like, why? This guy would throw these parties 3 or 4 times a year, have all this food, for everybody to go and have fun and drink all you wanted, eat all you want. If you think about it, how many people do you know would go do that for you 3 or 4 times a year?
Nobody. Nobody. One of a kind.
Nobody.
One of a kind. A legend.
And they were there.
Icon.
I was at the last Playboy party, the one Hef's last party, and I remember I was just like, and they had like a small little group, and because you could tell like when it was kind of getting taken over, and then they had the last one that was Playboy, but I remember they had but there was still like this small little group, but there were some little old ones in there, but I'd seen these people probably for like 20, 30 years.
Renee,
they were all still
did
there.
you ever get stuck in the transition when you went up there as a Playmate and you were actually up there going to a party that was like a corporate mixed in with too much of the other company?
Yeah.
They had more power than, that Halloween was a nightmare.
Yeah, because the people were bugging out. Yeah, because they were so, because then,
I had my purse stolen. I had my phone stolen. I had everything stolen because
people were your friends because you'd seen them for years.
Yes.
So no one would steal from you because they were like, it was like everybody you knew.
And they wouldn't.
Nobody would steal.
Nothing ever happened.
Nothing would ever happen to you. But then towards the end, you could tell when people were fans or if they were new because they were so freaked out if they met you because or they paid exactly because they weren't. It was too big.
They'd
it was too
win.
big for some of the people. Yeah.
They'd have to enter a drawing, put money in, and they'd win. So every person, you didn't know, are they paying $1,000 or did they win that $1,000 ticket to come up here? And those people, they were not your friends. And they turned
Absolutely.
out, and then when I went up for Halloween, it took 2 hours on the shuttle up there when we're used to being dropped off in limos, or we would drive up and down, and you went through all these changes of, okay, now we have to take this shuttle bus, and then after a few years, then Hev was getting sick, and then now it takes 2 hours, and Elkie and I were on that shuttle bus, and we swore we'll never come back to a Halloween party here ever again.
I remember happened. I was trapped on that one because I remember Pamela. We were on that bus for like 2 hours, and then I saw Pamela, and I think it was a Jared Leto. She was dating him at the time, and like where the Rock is as you go up the driveway. I looked over and I saw her
were
in her
you
entourage.
Close with this Pamela Anderson?
Yeah, Pamela Anderson. Yeah,
and you were
I saw
close
Pamela
with?
Anderson.
I went on her jet home once, but I never was really close with her. But she was always there for the Playmate.
You know what? She was so
You were?
Pamela.
Was she nice?
I remember. I know Pamela. Yeah, very. Because I remember they brought Pamela. Because Pamela was actually the year after me, and I remember when I was shooting in Chicago, and they showed me her picture, and they were like, "This girl has bugging on her," and I remember I was like, "Oh my God!" I was like, she's gorgeous, but it was that picture.
Beautiful.
Yeah, and I remember they showed me her photo, and I was like, "Oh my God, she's gorgeous." So then I remember I was shooting my Playmate of the Year video, and they brought Pamela to meet me, and she was with Scott Baio at the time, and I remember I just talked with her, and I remember she didn't have any makeup on, but it was like, oh my God, this girl is so pretty.
But she was so pretty without, but totally different though. With both beautiful so with pretty. A lot of makeup, and beautiful without makeup.
Yeah, and I remember Pamela didn't win PMOY, Lisa did, and I remember I was working with Pamela on. We were working together on some show. I remember.
Beautiful, but Lisa had that personality, that all-American. There was something about the American. It was time we were in the war.
She was all American all the way. And I remember Pamela told me
political type decision, maybe.
Maybe, but I remember her telling me it doesn't matter. I'm going to be a huge star. Mark my words. She told me I will be. She's like, I am going to be a huge star. Yeah.
And Pamela said that. Yeah. I love that. And because Lisa Matthews, that was her big thing. Because she married some ultra, like, major guy. I don't know what he does. You probably know. Producer or something. And she's so happy. And she went into, like, we never really saw much of her after that. And that's cool. That's fine. And that's great. She's probably a wonderful, loving wife and great mother. And I'm pretty sure she is. But then Pamela was like, I don't need to get Playmate of the Year. I'm going to be a star. That is, okay, Johnny, you can interrupt, but I mean, this is one of the iconic stories of Playboy from Renee Tenison, Playmate of the Year. For heaven's sake. Go on, Renee.
Oh, yeah. No. She just said she was going to be a big star, but she was, and she did. She became Pamela Anderson, but she just started that full time. I can't remember where it's working with on her, but then she just became Pamela Anderson. So, and she's probably the most known Playmate of all time, for sure. And she's sweet.
And you know what? I have a funny story about Scott Baio. Okay, he asked me out, and I remember I had special flat shoes on. They were crocodile, and I was up at the mansion, and I was like a fish out of water. Out of Nashville, Tennessee, and I would wear my blouses buttoned up to the top of my neck, and I had, like, conservative flat shoes. Like, you would never even recognize me, Renee. I was so this conservative Nashvilleian, and he goes, you're walking like a ballerina, and I go, oh, thank you, and he asked me out, and I go, no, thank you. And nobody could believe that I wouldn't go out with him, but all I can remember is he was Chachi to me. He was dorky Chachi on Happy Days, and I could never date him. He was a dork in my high school world, in my farm country in Monroe, Washington. He was considered the biggest dork of all time, and I was still that girl. I'm like, I'm not going to date you. And I remember I was laid in the guest house that Barbie Benton designed, and this was a cottage-type house. Remember how great that was, Renee?
Yes. The Playmate House, yes.
and that's where I stayed every time I was at the mansion. So I never was in the big house, which was thought of
I
as
never
like,
was in the
well,
big house
he's
either.
married.
I was always in that one. Yeah.
Yeah, because he was married when we were in the beginning of and I experienced the earthquake in that little twin bed by myself in the cottage, the 92 earthquake, the biggest one. And I experienced, this is another thing, Anna Nicole Smith, which we knew as Vicky at the time. She was rooming with me. There was 2 bedrooms and 4 beds. Yes. Okay, so I was in a bedroom with Vicky Smith, and she was on the phone all night long, and with the guy from the chicken commercial. That was her boyfriend. She was talking to him. It is true, not the commercial, the chicken fast food joint. He was working there with her. He was the chef, quote unquote, at this place. She was crying all night and fighting with him, and I said, please, I need to get up tomorrow. I'm shooting my centerfold.
This is a nightmare.
Do you mind?
This is a nightmare.
Do you mind, like, keeping it down? She would not. She didn't care. She did not understand the concept of consideration. But beyond small town, she did not understand. Okay, you could say it's not her fault, but anyway, I didn't care whose fault it was.
I never met her. I never met her before, but I would have liked to.
Yes.
Met her.
So this is what you would have done, Renee. I moved to the room over because there was an empty bed, and that's where Echo was staying. I'm just thinking, well, Echo's out late tonight. She'll just go in the bed with Anna Nicole, right? Or, well, her name was Vicky at the time. She wasn't Anna Nicole yet. Okay, so anyway, I don't even remember who was in that room that I laid down in. Maybe it was empty. Actually, yeah, I think it was empty. Whatever. So she comes home, and I thought she went into the room of Vicky's, and she really came into that room because it was empty. That's right, it was empty, the other twin bed. And I was on the phone under the covers just waking up and telling somebody how dorky Scott Baio is, that he had asked me out that night, and I couldn't believe it. And I was like, no way, dude. But my friend here, Echo, went out with him, and how dorky was that? And said she was, and I sat up in bed and I looked, and I'm like, oh my God, to myself, Echo is laying there. Oh my God, is she pretending she's sleeping? And I was like, my whole body like went into the sweat, like
this is a nightmare.
I just rained on her so bad. Years later, it literally was 15 years later, I'm like, Echo, do you remember that? And she's like, no. I'm like, oh God. And we were laughing our butts off because we became really close friends. But that literally, Renee, happened. And
it does.
I was like,
it does.
Totally right.
You're around these girls.
People are like, well,
like,
you didn't go out with Scott Baio. Well, for heaven's sake, no, he was a total dork. What do you mean? He's famous to the rest of the world.
Yeah.
I got more stories than you could believe. Like, you and I have so many stories. But then how many Playmates are there? Like maybe under 1,000 in the world? Playmates.
I don't
Do you know. How many
Well,
intertwined stories? Yeah. That is an amazing thought right there. I know a lot of us are writing books. I haven't started a book yet. Have you?
I did some statistics. No. It turns out there are more Navy SEALs than there are Playmates.
Oh. There are?
Yes.
Maybe.
Yeah, and that's not very many. Have you dated one, Renee? I dated one, though, actually. And you know what? It took him 1 full year to get up the nerve to give me a kiss.
Oh, wow. That's a long time.
They're robots. They're like robots.
Oh,
they're not all that you think. They're,
You're probably,
you want a little humanity.
A woman like you. You know what I mean? He blew his mind.
Oh, come on.
Yeah, no, seriously. He blew his mind.
Look at me, Priscilla. Renee saying, because I have my AirPods on. She's saying, oh, men, they might get intimidated dating a woman like me. Priscilla sees the real me. I have like what? Brown root, no nails, no pedicure. I have to grow it off because it was gel. And I mean, yeah, I'm still thin. I'm in pretty good shape. I could probably tone my arms up. But I mean, no, Renee. I mean, I'm just a human woman. And I'm white, by the way, which sucks because I don't have my spray tan. I'm not complaining about it, but I will say
all suffering
one time.
Here. We're all, but I'm trying to do
it's like
best.
my spray tan hid
you know.
all the flaws. I mean, if you had a spray tan, nobody would see anything wrong with me. But okay. Anyway, we've taken up your time, and we're going to close off at 6:30. It's 6:24. I'm going to let Johnny, because he probably feels like he couldn't even get a word in edgewise.
No, that's
ask
fine. That's fine.
the last question. Johnny,
okay.
ask the last
Are
question.
you ever, this actually question is for the both of you. Have you ever been in a room where there was a bunch of playmates, and then you see another playmate come in, and everybody is like stops and look at how beautiful she is?
Wow. Yeah. I mean, I think that happens. That happens a lot. Like, there's certain playmates, that are captivating. You know,
Smith, that happened. I've heard Anna Nicole Smith was one that everybody just sort of stops. You know,
she was. Playboy flew me in. During her Playmate of the Year party, they wanted to have me in New York. I don't remember why, but they flew me to her Playmate of the Year party, and I remember because I didn't know her, I knew of her, and I remember she came in to the party, and she had like this I think $2 million necklace on, and they had her dressed up kind of like Marilyn Monroe, and they were bringing her down. Like, they had like all these guys. These male models were carrying her, and she just had like such star quality. I remember I was just like, wow, because she just like was electric, like literally
so beautiful.
She was beautiful.
I think she has the
like,
most pretty face I've ever seen in my life. The face was the prettiest face I've ever seen in my entire life.
The package, because she had the big boobs. She was voluptuous.
And just Amazon.
It all worked. It all worked for her.
Like
but it made
supermodel.
her it gave her that little.
But with
and then, like I said, in the panel, I met her too as well. Yeah, because she had come in with no makeup, and I remember I just was like, wow, this girl. But then when you would see her in makeup, she just could look like the girl next door. She could just look real vampy, and because I'd done VIP, her show she had, but then then of course she had the hair and the lashes and makeup, and so I just think some of these girls and then I do remember I was awestruck when I met Devin DeVasquez, because I remember because she was the closest one of color that I had seen that I identified with, and then I remember when I met her.
And she was the winner. Oh, Renee,
I
don't mean to interrupt, but she was the Star Search winner, and we've interviewed her for this as well, for this Playboy Playmate series. Did you know that?
But I remember I saw her. Yeah, no, I do, and I knew, and I remembered she'd won Star Search because I was looking at her video in Idaho, and then when I saw her, I thought I was more. She was more of a celebrity from Star Search even than Playboy. So I remember I met her like right as you're going right in from the Great Hall, in Playboy, you're going right into where the bar's at right there. You go down the steps. I remember I met her right there, and I remember
she has a darker skin as well.
Yeah,
so
I
you
identified
related.
Because, like I said, I related. She's the only one that was kind of dark. Her and Rebecca Ferrardi at the time were the only two that I'd seen. So those are the ones that I kind of was like, wow, because they looked a little bit like me. Yeah.
Whoa, that face, Rebecca Ferrari. I mean, the girls of the 90s, they say that the faces, and you know what? It's true. I love my Playboy Playmate book.
Yeah.
Do you look through your centerfold book?
Yeah.
Do you look through that?
Oh, I love that. I love it.
I love it. I love looking through
Which ones did you admire that you saw?
Okay. Oh, gosh. Cheryl Bachman was my
the one
that I
the hair. Yeah.
I would just look at hers and just think, I want it to be like hers. And she's like the most gorgeous of all, I would think. And I mean, the straight, straight hair and that perfect face and the perfect body. And I was just like, darn, I wish my boobs were like, oh my God, she was
ever.
Like,
you're right.
wet.
Greatest boobs ever. You're right. She did.
And just the wet, remember the whole wet look? Oh, man, that was hot. So that, I just kept looking at that. And I remember I was rooming with Morgan Fox. Whatever happened to her?
Oh, Morgan, I'm Facebook friends with her. She's good.
Oh.
She's raising horses.
I would like to be friends with her.
Yeah.
I have great memories with her.
Yeah. Yeah, she's really sweet.
Hot.
She's like raising horses. And she looks the same, actually. I'm friends with almost all of the Playmates, like literally. She looks exactly the same.
Wow. Okay, good, because I wasn't so sure, Renee, that you have this wonderful store, and you listeners, please go to Varga.com. Am I correct?
Yes, for sure.
Varga.com to shop at our beautiful, wonderful show guest tonight, which I'm so happy about. This was an absolute wonderful show, wasn't it, Johnny?
Yes, it was.
Thank you, guys. I appreciate it. Thank you so much.
And Barbara, I'll see
you. Renee, if you have any suggestions.
What is Rosie saying in the background?
She was saying goodbye.
Okay,
Renee,
goodbye, Rosie and Renee, and let me do the shout out if you guys don't mind.
Sorry.
Okay.
I just wanted to tell her if she has any suggestions for future Playmates for the series to go ahead and send them over, Renee.
Thank you, Johnny.
Yes, for sure.
Let's do the shout out.
Okay. Good.
Oh, definitely. I'll definitely refer you guys. Yeah, for sure.
Thank you, Renee. So if you would like to continue following the show, we would be more than pleased. But take it a next step further and come over to our YouTube channel, Life, Laughter, Happiness YouTube. And while you're there, don't forget to subscribe. We appreciate the support, and we actually need it. Thank you to our beautiful, wonderful Playboy Playmate guest tonight, Renee Tenison, 1990 Playboy Playmate of the Year. Thank you, Renee, so much. And Rosie, thank you, who's in the background. Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
And if you would like to see
this
show and hear this show again, go to our YouTube channel and find all of the other shows that we have. So what's next, Johnny? Who's up next?
Well,